Today I'm going to be painting up some minis from the game Scythe. These are the mechs from the Rusviet faction. This video isn't so much a how-to, as I'm still a fairly new painter, but I know there are some people who enjoy watching painting videos, and maybe you can get some inspiration from this if you want to paint them yourself. For this project I'm going to be using a mixture of Vallejo Model Color, Reaper, and an old wash from Games Workshop. This is Devlin Mud. I think they've since replaced it with the Agrax Earthshade. The main colors I'm using are black, white, some various browns, red, silver, gunmetal, and a tan color for highlights. As you can see, while I was priming the minis, I wrapped the edge of the base in masking tape. So now all I have to do is remove it, and I have the original color of the base still showing. To start off, I'm just going to base coat the entire miniature with a mixture of black and white. This is a little bit more black, so it's kind of a dark gray. I'm thinning my paints fairly well here, so it flows all over the miniature very nicely. My brush is loaded up with a lot of paint, so I can cover a lot of area very quickly. I apologize if I move out of the frame too many times or move out of focus. This is the first painting video I've ever done. I have an adapter coming in so I can set up one of my old monitors as a painting monitor, but until then, this is the best I can do. I'm going to keep moving the miniature around so I can see into all the little crevices. It's easy to miss parts, so I just keep moving it, turning it, and looking to make sure I didn't miss anything. Once the mini's completely coated, I'm going to move on to red. I'm not going to go too heavy on the red, I just kind of want this to be an accent color. Because of the fact that each faction in Scythe has a main color, I want this to be a prominent, but not overstated color. I'm just choosing a few plates for the red. Up here on the shoulders, down on the legs and the arm plates, and a star in the middle of the chest. Whenever I'm base coating, I usually load the brush up with a lot of paint. I keep it nice and thin so it's easy to spread around. I often need 2 or 3 coats to get the coverage I'm looking for. When my painting gets a little more detailed, I don't put so much paint on my brush. I still keep the paint thin, but I don't want so much on the brush that it'll flood the model every time I touch it. I'm trying to be a little more careful here, but it's alright if we make a few small mistakes. I can't always go back over it again. The star is the symbol of the Rusviet faction, so I want this to be somewhat prominent. I'm going to start off by marking some dots, and then painting straight lines in between the dots. This is proving very difficult to do on camera. I'm going to do it off camera, but I'm going to use the same idea. I think that looks a lot better. I'm happy with this result. I've painted a few different styles of stars, just to keep things interesting. With the red plates completed, I'm now going to dry brush over pretty much the entire model with the gunmetal from Reaper. I'm going to be using an old brush that I don't really care about. I think I bought this one online in a pack that was maybe a couple dollars for 7 or 8 brushes. The look I'm going for here is a metal hull that's been painted, but the corners are kind of starting to show some wear. So as I dry brush, I'm trying to kind of bring out those edges. I'm also going to use the same color to dry brush around the red plates. This shows that there's metal underneath the paint on these plates as well. When dry brushing, I load up the brush with as much paint as I can, and then wipe off as much of it as I can. This seems kind of counterintuitive, but if you get a lot of paint in the brush before you start, you'll be able to dry brush for quite a while before having to reload your brush. And if you don't wipe off as much as you can, then as soon as you start dry brushing, it's just going to cover over everything. I'm going to paint a little heavier on the blades here. It's not quite a dry brush, but I'm not loading up the brush as much as I would for the base coat. I'm going to follow that up with an edge highlight of the silver. This is a very bright color. I'm also going to use this to make some deeper scratches, as though they had been sharpened or had been used quite extensively. I should have used the same brush as before, but I didn't, and ended up putting too much paint on. Oh well, no one's going to see this part anyway. With the highlights all done, it's time to move on to the base. You can pretty much use any kind of white glue, as long as it dries clear. Using an old dollar store brush, I'm spreading the glue around on the base. With the white glue entirely covering the base, I'm now going to dip the entire base into some sand that I've collected from outside. This will give the base some texture. The glue is now dry, so I'm going to be painting over this with brown. I'm using a pretty dark brown here. And again, I'm thinning this down quite a lot. This is probably a 50-50 mixture of paint and water. Here I'm using my thumb to wipe off paint that gets on the edge of the base before it dries. Now I'm just using the edge highlighting technique to get the last bits of gray around the edge. Now that the first coat is dried, I'm going to be applying the Devlin mud. This will get into the recesses and bring out some of the detail. I'm using this wash straight out of the pot. After waiting about an hour for this to dry, it's time to highlight. I'll be dry brushing on a lighter brown from Reaper. And the first highlight is done. I'm now going to be brushing on a tan color, also from Reaper. This will be a lighter dry brush because it's so much brighter. I don't want to completely obscure the other two colors. And that's about it for our models. I've painted all four slightly differently. Some of them have a little more wear and tear on them, a little bit more battle damage maybe. Some of them look like they're maybe fresh out of the factory and have only seen use 1 or 2 times. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and leave a comment down below. I plan to keep making painting videos as well as board game tutorials. I'll be painting the rest of the side figures eventually. I've also got some D&D minis to do. Those will be coming up pretty soon as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.